Hello, and we are live. Oh, hi guys. Sorry. Hey Debbie. Let's see who we have on before I start talking. It's still really hot here in Montreal, so I apologize. I have to stop taking some water. Who's all on with us? So this is Emily McGuire from Low Carb Genesis, and the scope today is for your sugar-free September scope. We spoke a little bit yesterday about intermittent fasting, so I said that I would do a scope on this. I've had a lot of people messaging me, so I decided to do it sooner rather than later for you guys. Who's on? Let's see who's on with us today. See where you're coming from Denver. Oh, I missed it in Denver. I was there a couple of months ago. Love it there. Oh, it's all loading up now. Oh, I know. Sorry. Hi, Keto Adapted. In South Africa, amazing. Corin and I have been very busy today. Hey, Debbie. And we actually got off of an interview with dietitian Cassie earlier. Hi, Tracy. How are you doing? So we've just been putting the finishing touches to that. Hey, and from Alabama, amazing. So we were just getting everything sorted on that. Gosh, everyone's flooding in now. Puerto Rico, oh, New York City, I so miss it there. Oh, amazing, Elsa. Yeah, New York City is one of my favorite places ever in the States. Oh, I don't know. I think I've got loads flowing in now, so can everyone hear me okay? I see loads of comments and stuff coming in. Let me know if not, and I'll try and change it here. Oh, from Denmark. Amazing. I go there quite a bit actually, to Denmark. So anyway, let's get started on oh, amazing. Yeah, we were there. Did I meet you whilst I was there? I might have met you. I was with Dr. Gerber and we saw that there. Hey, Karen. How are you doing? Okay. Yes, and Dr. Gerber is amazing as well. So I got to meet Damon whilst we were there in Denver. So that was really pretty cool. So today I wanted to touch on intermittent fasting stuff. So we obviously had Jimmy Moore on from Living La Vida Low Carb Show from South Africa. Oh, I love that all you guys are joining in. And he obviously was speaking about his fasting experiment that he was doing. So he has decided to go on now I think it's day 7 that he's hit for his fasting. And I think he's aiming for about a 2-week fast. So that's kind of where he's aiming at. I think he's taking a day-by-day approach. But we obviously started getting a lot of people asking about the fasting. Should they or shouldn't they do it? And kind of what the ins and outs of it are. So first of all, obviously for Sugar-Free September, we are not kind of saying that everybody needs to fast. That is not what we're saying at all for this. A lot of the people that are doing the fasting are people that are very much kind of keto adapted already, which Jimmy is. So he is someone that has obviously been following a low carb lifestyle for a very long time. Ilsa as well, I know, is obviously been doing a lot of fasting, and obviously she has been working under Dr. Westman as well. So I know you worked with him a little bit on the cruise in order to get your diabetes markers under control. So there's a few people I think on here that are going to be fasting. So first of all, it's just to say what kind of this intermittent fasting is all about. So intermittent fasting is kind of what it says on the tin basically. It's a period of where you don't eat. Now, a lot of people get a little bit freaked out by this because, you know, a lot of the conception is that everybody should be eating, you know, as often as possible, 3 meals a day, 2 snacks in between. But that's not always necessarily the case. And for some people, actually, periods of intermittent fasting can be really beneficial for them. It's been around for centuries upon centuries. Lots of religions, etc., have fasting within certain holidays and things like that. So it's not something that is really detrimental to the body. However, there are some obviously caveats within that. Oh, thank you, Ali. Day 2, and you can fast for up to 18 hours. So yeah, I'm going to take you through different types of what people would call sort of intermittent fasting. So there's also 2 names I just want to throw out as well. Whilst I was in Toronto, I actually got to shadow with Dr. Jason Fung, and that's F-U-N-G, and he's based in Toronto. He is kind of the guy on sort of intermittent fasting, and I got to spend a week with him in clinic and see all his patients that were actually doing intermittent fasting. Now, Jason's obviously an MD, and he's a kidney doctor. I can never say the actual long word of that, so I'm not going to try on here. So he sees a lot of diabetic patients with a lot of complications, and for anybody, I would urge you to go and read his work. He's at intensivedietarymanagement.com, or if you just put in Dr. Jason Fung IDM, you'll find all his work there. He has amazing resources on his website. He also does a distance course with his clinical assistant, who is Megan. She is fantastic. She knows her stuff when it comes to fasting as well. So if you want more information, I would go through them. The other person to point out is a guy called Brad Pilon, and that's spelled P-I-L-O-N, and he has written a really great book on fasting. He does actually have his PhD. I'm not sure what the title is that it's in, but he was a bodybuilder back in the day, and he went to start his PhD to show that, you know, you need to eat 6 to 7 meals a day in order to be healthy, etc. And he just wasn't able to show that being the case. So he actually discovered intermittent fasting in a roundabout way, if you like. So he's got a really great book that if you wanted to read a little bit more behind the science and how to do it, then definitely read his book within there. So intermittent fasting can come in different ways. For a lot of people, I myself included, often find myself doing this, is an intermittent fast could be commonly a period of between 16 to about 20 hours where you don't eat, and then you have sort of a feeding window. So it could be 16 hours where you don't eat, and then 8 hours where you eat within that period of time. So that could be, for example, you finish your evening meal 5, 6, and then maybe you don't eat the next day until around about lunchtime, whatever that time is for you. Most people who generally follow that are people who are already on sort of this low carbohydrate kind of ketogenic approach. And that is something that can happen quite naturally, because when you are in a ketogenic range, then you're naturally not as hungry. So that is quite a common approach. I often do that. Having breakfast, particularly when you're keto adapted, is not the essential meal of the day necessarily. Breakfast obviously basically stands for you're breaking the fast, so that doesn't have to be first thing in the morning when you get up. It can be whatever time of the day it suits you. The main thing is to listen to your body, and if you are feeling hungry, then you're going to obviously make sure you nourish that, because the hunger is also a signal from the body that it needs nourishment, it needs vitamins and minerals, and that's sometimes why the hunger, true hunger, is happening there. Then you have other longer periods of fast. So a lot of people, and particularly we saw this in the clinic with Dr. Fung, is he would get people to fast at least around about 3 times a week for about 24 hours. So they would say have breakfast in the morning at 8 a.m. and then they wouldn't have anything again until 8 a.m. the next again day. And then they would have a day where they would eat normally, and then they would do that again, and they'd repeat this for about 3 times within that week. So that's again quite a common way of doing the fasting. What the major thing is, if you're going to be doing fasting like that, is on the days that you are going to be eating, you have to make sure that you are still, one, eating well, so still eating foods that are low in sugar, low in refined grains, that are still real whole foods, and make sure you get enough in as well. So it's not about eating, you know, minimal amounts on those days either. And then you have other periods, so 48 hours, so some people will try and go for 48 or even up to 72 hours between a 2 and 3 day fast. So that was quite common that we saw in the clinic. Most people will go for about a 3-day fast. For a lot of people, that's because between day 2 and 3, that's when it can get really challenging. You know, your mood can kind of be a bit over the place, the hunger pangs do kind of come, and I know Jimmy spoke about this. I don't think he's on with us just now, but he was saying around those days it's really, really tough. And some people just obviously don't want to keep going with that side, so they would then come off it at that point. And some people find that that is completely fine. They were getting great improvements in obesity and diabetes markers, so they were fine to repeat that maybe sort of once a month, once every 2 weeks. Then you have the really long periods of fasting. Now, this is the fasting, obviously, what Jimmy is doing. Thanks for the hearts, guys. I don't know who's in purple. This is the kind of fasting that Jimmy is doing. So he's now been on it for a week. Now, when I first heard about this and being trained as sort of a health professional, it sounds absolutely crazy. Hi there, thank you for joining us. It sounds absolutely crazy to put someone on for fasting. When I first heard about Dr. Fung doing this, I thought he was crazy and that this didn't actually happen. But some of the people that we actually saw in his clinic had actually made it to 4 weeks of fasting. And unless I'd actually spoken to the patients myself, I probably would never have believed that an individual would be able to do this. They took it day by day. They were obviously under medical guidance as well, so they were coming in and they were seeing Dr. Fung and Megan as well. So they had some really great improvements, and as well, a lot of the people that he was seeing are people that are really, they're quite advanced with a lot of their, diabetes, etc. So these are people that are really quite ill with it, and they needed something a little bit stronger working than, say, the low-carb ketogenic approach. So I know, wow, I was completely blown away by some of these people and what they were doing. The caveats that I want to say with it though is, first of all, if you are, fasting is really not for everyone, and I don't think it's the approach that everybody has to take, particularly the long periods of fasting. So anything over sort of those 3 days. If you are going to attempt any form of fasting, then I would always say, particularly if you're on medication, so if you're on diabetic medication, if you're on any blood pressure medication, then you really need to consult with your primary care physician, your GP, your nurse, whoever it is you normally see, because you can get drastic drops in things like your blood sugar and your blood pressure, which if you stay on those medications without getting them altered, it can have really, really serious effects. So please, if anyone is thinking about it, make sure you do consult with a proper health professional before you go on that, just to make sure that you're completely covering yourself. The second thing is, when you're actually doing the fast, you do need to make sure that you are keeping up with certain things. So a lot of people just do the fast and all they'll do is drink water. If you do that, you're going to have really serious problems with headaches, with feeling lightheaded, with feeling dizzy, because you're not giving your body enough of the electrolytes that it needs. So what Dr. Fung and Megan quite often, and most people within the field of intermittent fasting, is recommending bone broth. Bone broth is amazing because it has a plethora of all the electrolytes that you need within there, and you can have that whilst you're fasting, keeping up obviously with your water intake. Now, the interesting thing with Dr. Fung as well is that he recommends that people can still have things like cream, some coconut oil and some butter whilst they're fasting. Now I know that sounds a little bit strange because you think fasting, absolutely no calories, but what the goal of the fasting is to make sure that you do not spike your insulin levels at all. And obviously, as we know, carbohydrates are one of the main triggers of insulin spiking and the one to get it the highest. Protein obviously can have an impact, but yet fat itself is not insulinemic. So that means that it does not trigger the insulin response at all. So having a small amount of, say, cream within your coffee, a little bit of butter or coconut oil is something that you can do whilst you're intermittent fasting as well. So, sorry, my phone keeps buzzing off here. So those are all the kind of major aspects with regard to intermittent fasting. Like we said, obviously Karen and I are not sort of saying everyone in Sugar-Free September needs to do intermittent fasting, so that's kind of not what this scope is about, but it's just we were getting so many questions from people about should they do it, should they not do it, and what does it advocate. Bone broth definitely does help. The maximum I've done for a fast has been about a 24-hour fast. I found that I got on really well with it. I've never done it any longer than that. I have known other people, particularly in the lab. I know Jimmy was talking about Thomas Seyfried as well. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you guys for being on. Thomas Seyfried as well, he's a big advocate of at least once a year trying a week-long fast. There is a lot of evidence to show the longevity benefits, so the kind of anti-aging and also the anti-cancer effects with it as well. So there is a lot of evidence surrounding that now. A 3-day fast, he kind of encourages at least sort of once a month as well. He quite often does that. And then things like caffeine. So caffeine will be a very individual response. So if you're really going at this for blood sugar control, he's actually found that some people can still still stimulate an insulin response. So therefore, if you're still getting a little bit high blood sugar readings when you're on a fast and you're drinking caffeine, you might want to cut back on that because that could be what's causing the trigger. There's probably 101 other questions around intermittent fasting, but I'm not going to cover them all here just now. So just to kind of recap, with the sugar-free September, we're not asking you to intermittent fast at all. We're obviously looking at getting your sugar and your refined grains out obviously of your diet. Make sure we get all your withdrawals, your cravings, everything like that under control. For those that are already on low carb and ketogenic, then, you know, by all means, look at the resources from Dr. Fung and Brad Pilon as well. Start with a smaller fast, like a 24-hour fast, see how you feel with that. Make sure you definitely get some, so before you even start the fast, make sure you've got enough bone broth stocked in your fridge or your freezer. If you're not a fan of the flavour of it, you can always freeze the bone broth as well and just use that in you know, drinks with the ice cubes, etc. So those are the kind of things I would say around intermittent fasting. I love how quiet everyone has been on here. We're not having any strange people on the scopes today. So if anybody has any other particular questions or individualized questions, I'm obviously not able to kind of answer on here, but you can drop me an email. So it's lowcarbgenesis@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook, so it's Sugar Free with Karen Thompson, or you can find me all over social media with Low Carb Genesis as well, and that's on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Like I said, I've now shadowed Jason and it's pretty amazing. I've seen some really powerful results with the intermittent fasting, but for anybody that is going to do it, I would encourage you to really seek out someone who knows what they're doing with it, because you can get yourself in trouble with it pretty quickly if you're not sort of 100% clued up on it. So I hope that answers some of the questions around it, and I hope everybody is doing amazingly. It's day 9 on sugar free. Let us know how you're doing. We have just tied up the interview with dietitian Cassie, so we're going to be sending that out on email link tomorrow, and everyone can see that. She gave such an amazing amount of information on sugar cravings, withdrawals, and some really great tips and tricks as well, so you guys will want to watch that there. So hope everyone has an amazing rest of the afternoon or evening, depending on where you are in the world, and we will check in with you tomorrow. Okay, catch you later, guys. Bye.